Ende April war Sandi Toksvig anlässlich der Verleihung des 11. Heinz Oberhummer Awards in Wien. Am 24. April habe ich sie im Naturhistorischen Museum getroffen, um mit ihr über Händchenhalten während der Mondlandung zu sprechen, die Unreparierbarkeit von Wikipedia, die Unsichtbarkeit weiblicher Geschichte, ihr großes neues Lexikon-Projekt Kettensägen als vermeintliches Frauenglück und über Jesus Christ Superstar. Über letzteren wollten wir zumindest sprechen, haben wir dann aber leider vergessen. Dabei ist die Geschichte wirklich sehr schön, dass sie einen Preis bekommt im Namen eines Atheisten, der zu seiner Zeit keine Gefangenen gemacht hat, wenn es um Religion und Aberglauben gegangen ist, aber ausgerechnet ihr erster bezahlter Job war der einer Beleuchterin bei einer Musicalproduktion von Jesus Christ Superstar. Und weil Sandi Toksvig sehr schlecht Deutsch spricht und ich noch schlechter Dänisch, wir uns aber beide auf Englisch ganz passabel unterhalten können, vor allem weil sie es sehr gut kann, ist die heutige Ausgabe durchgehend auf Englisch gehalten. Viel Vergnügen! Ausgabe 130 des Science Busters Podcasts, and today it's time for broken English with an Austrian accent, but with the help of Jesus Christ Superstar we will succeed.
Velkommen, og jeg er så glad at være her i Osvig, og jeg synes, det skal være morsomt at være på den her podcast.
Herzlich willkommen zur Ausgabe 130 des Science Busters Podcasts, immer produziert mit Unterstützung der Uni Graz und der TU Wien. Mein Name ist unverändert Martin Puntigam, and with me today is this year's winner of Heinz Oberhummer Award, writer, comedian, activist, presenter, whatever you like to add, Sandi Toksvig. Hello.
Hello. Busy woman, that's what
Yes.
I think we say. Very busy woman.
Well, that's what women were all the centuries ago.
Absolutely right, Martin.
Last episode in 129, I talked with Ralf Kaspers, author and presenter, about the science of endings, not the least because he did read the audiobook of our current book, Aus, die Wissenschaft vom Ende. And of course, we talked about happy ends, unhappy ends, fascinating, but also frightening ends, end of the universe, mirror lives, and why there are 3 ends of a sausage, not as commonly assumed just 2. And he told me about what is necessary to manage a successful YouTube channel, although talking exclusively about science. Today, accompanied by some lovely construction sounds, it should be quite interesting.
Very good.
I think you know the joke. We'll talk about nearly the whole world. Europe, Africa, the United States, Denmark, Greenland, feminism, brief encounters, landing on the moon, political activism, comedy and panel shows, and Jesus Christ, our Savior. And of course about fake news, real news, love for science, and why alpaca droppings can make the world a better place. At least we try. We are sitting in the Natural History Museum of Vienna, in the room where children's birthday parties take place. It's tidy. You wouldn't.
I know, there's no balloons, which
Yes.
is what I was hoping for. I was expecting balloons.
Nothing else. It's empty except for the tables and
Oh, it's very
stools.
nice.
Yes. You had a guided tour
Yes.
at the museum. What were you guided through?
So my life is very strange. I have a very close friend of mine, Catherine Mayer, and my other friend, Angela Bush, is here. And I phoned Catherine Mayer to say that I was receiving alpaca poo because it was good news, I thought. And she said, when are you receiving it? And I told her the date. And she said, well, that's very strange because the day before I am receiving my great uncle's collection of rocks. He collected, he was a geologist, and he collected all of the rocks from the Alps, which I think you can imagine was not a sort of a one-day job.
Yes.
It was quite busy.
And there are still a lot of rocks
There's
in the
still a
Alps.
lot of rocks. And very sadly, he was forced in the Second World War to leave Austria. And the collection has now been given back to the family. And then Catherine today, on behalf of her family, has given it back to the museum.
So the museum tried to get rid of the rocks. and they got it back.
They got it back again,
Yes.
I'm afraid. Yeah, it was too heavy for the luggage
Yes.
on the flight home to London.
And what kind of rocks?
It's fascinating. It is the whole of the geology of the Alps in, I'm going to get this right, Handstück. Hand pieces, is that right? Yeah? Is that right? Handstück?
Yeah.
Handstück. I'm looking to my German guides on my left, and we've just seen them. So we were allowed to go down to the basement. Did you know that there are 7 floors below us in the museum full of things?
I knew that there is an archive because there's a movie made about the Natural History Museum called Archive of the Future. And I was a presenter
Okay.
when the movie was shown at the cinema. So I talked to some people from the museum, and that was very interesting because evolution is a big thing.
Yeah, not in America, but yes, generally.
in a natural history museum.
Yeah.
And the departments and the people working there behave a little like evolution is going on in each department. They are very similar to each other.
But I love this. What I loved, the geologist who was showing us around, he talked about the fact that the world is never still. Things are always changing. Things are not in stasis. So even though we see things in glass cases and we think, oh, that's it, that's the past right there. That's the Earth is constantly on the move. It was just one of the most amazing exhibitions I've ever seen.
Yes. And it's a big research institution, which I didn't know.
Yeah.
It's part of the university, and they do research, not only exhibitions. And
well, we just went to see the Venus of Willendorf, which was one of the most exciting moments in my whole life, because I have lectured on her and never seen her. And they were talking about the research that was done to discover where the rock came from that she's made of. So it was fascinating.
And where did the rock come from?
Well, they've pinned it down to 2 places. It's either Lake Garda in Italy or a place in Ukraine. But it was found in this little village, Willendorf, and it's about 30,000 years old. And the limestone came probably from 1,000 miles away. So somebody has really loved this sculpture and brought it with them in their hand. And it's one of the single most beautiful things I've ever seen.
Yes, and as I recall, it's tiny. It's
only about 4 inches. I don't know what that is in centimeters, about the size of your hand.
Yes.
It's so detailed. And to think that was made 30,000 years ago, this love and reverence for the female forms. I honestly, I didn't know it was here. I felt slightly sick at the thought of being in the same room, so it was wonderful.
And your love for rocks and Venus for Willendorf, and the reason why you lectured was because you graduated in archaeology?
I did, yeah. A very, very long time ago, when the world was in black and white.
But you still fancy archaeology?
Yeah, I just made a program for the BBC television about archaeology, and I actually got a chance to dig at some ancient sites and discovered amazing things. That's the thing, is every time I think, oh, there's no more things to dig deep into, there is so much more that I want to learn. And we discovered a medieval hospice, a kind of hospital, just for cancer, which you wouldn't think in kind of 1300, 1400 they would have known about. And people were clearly coming from all over Britain to come to this place. And how did they know to come? Because there's no internet and there's no newspapers. How did they know to come to this place? But people had travelled from a really long way to come and have their cancers treated. And it's just not what I would have thought was happening.
What was cancer at that time?
Well, you can see it in that if you look at the skeletons of the people, you can see the growths, and they can analyse that these were different kinds of cancers. So tumours. And you can see it in the skulls and in the rib cages of people. These are people who were severely, there wouldn't have been some silent killer of cancer. These would have been things that would present as massive tumours. But that they had one place that they went that they thought they maybe would get cured is astonishing. And, 600-700 years ago, I wouldn't have thought that was what was happening.
Yes, it's astonishing. But did they get cured?
We don't know, because we only see the dead people.
But
so it doesn't look good.
If the people were massively ill and the way to the hospital is far.
It was on the river. So it was on the River Thames in a place called Cookham in Berkshire. For what we know, you can analyse bones and actually work out almost exactly where people have come from by the things that they ate and the sort of water that they drank. The analysis, the modern science of being able to analyse bones is incredible. So I became obsessed. I loved it. And we discovered an all-female group of almost warriors called the Geotringers 2,000 years ago, where they clearly kept male slaves. And I had an extraordinary experience. We found a torture pit, and there was a young man of maybe 15 to 17 years old, face down in the pit. and we wanted to recover his skull. And we went down and we were ready to lift the skull. And we turned his face to the sun, if you like, for the first time in 2,000 years. And I looked him in the face and burst into tears. It was the most astonishing privilege to see the face of this young man 2,000 years later.
Which were still preserved?
Well, not the skin or anything, obviously, but the skull. Extremely well preserved.
Anyone know why the women had slaves? Just for fun or for labor? No, I think
they were in charge, and we can only guess. But there is some theory that they got young men in for the purposes of creating children, but they didn't want local ones. So this young man almost certainly came from France.
Okay.
Sperm donors, let's call them that.
Yes, which Denmark is famous for.
Famous. Oh, where the Viking sperm is like the best in the world.
And nowadays, sperm banks in Copenhagen or Denmark are famous.
Business.
Yes.
Yeah. It's not my area, but yes.
So speaking of Denmark, you were born in Denmark, Copenhagen.
Yeah.
Copenhagen in 2025 was named the most livable city in the world. But you left. Why?
Well, nothing to do with me. I still, whenever I have a moment, so I had 4 days off so far this year, and I spent them in Copenhagen.
Whenever you have time,
I go home.
Yes, it's still home to you?
Well, it's in my DNA, I think. So the food of your childhood, I think, has a special place in your heart. I feel very relaxed there. It's a very easy place to be. One of the things, I don't know, this may be true of Austrians as well, one of the things I like about Danish people is they're very straightforward. So if you say to a Danish person, do you like my coat? They're perfectly able to say, it doesn't suit you. And I like that. They don't mess about. A British person would say, oh, yeah, it's very nice. And
yes, Austrian people are in between.
Are they in between? Okay. I love the food. I love the people. I like the attitude to life. But we left because my father was the most famous broadcaster in Danish television, and he became their very first foreign correspondent. So because he had to cover the whole world, because he was the only foreign correspondent, we moved to New York because the theory was that he could go to the UN and talk to anybody from anywhere in the world and find out what was happening. But this is back in the day. So we moved to New York in 1966. This is back in the day when there was no internet and there was no satellites. So if my father filmed a story in New York, we would then drive to the airport with big film canister, and we would go to the first class queue for Scandinavian Airways and see if somebody would carry the film back to Copenhagen where somebody would meet them. So it took probably 3 days for a story to get from America to Denmark.
How old were you when you left Denmark?
So I was 7.
Oh, very early.
But before that, we had been in Africa. My father was worked for what was then Rhodesian Broadcasting. So I've spent my first trip abroad from Copenhagen. I was 6 weeks old, and we flew to Africa.
And in which schools were you taught? Or
everywhere. I've been thrown out of a lot of schools, but I went to about 17 schools, 3 of which asked me to leave, which I think is probably a good rate.
But it's difficult for a child, always new children, making friends, leaving again.
I had my brother, who is still my very good friend, and my father didn't really believe in formal education, so we were on the road with him a lot, and he expected us to read the New York Times from about the age of 8, and we had a copy of the Encyclopedia Britannica, which is big, and it was from 1929, the year my father was born. And he said, if you want to know anything before 1929, look in the Encyclopedia Britannica. Anything after 1929, ask me.
And he knew his stuff?
He was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant. And he was curious. And he taught me that the answer, I don't know, is perfectly reasonable and is the first step to knowledge. So it's fine to say, I don't know. Because otherwise, if you don't say that, how will you ever discover anything?
That's the kind we open our show for our kids. We do science shows for kids.
Yeah.
And the first sentence of Martin Moder, my partner on stage, is there are no silly questions. It's just silly nuts to
and also,
to ask.
The other thing my father taught me, which I still believe in, is have all of your answers questioned. So whatever you think you know absolutely, why don't you have another think?
So there is the anecdote, because living in New York in 1969, you were holding Neil Armstrong's secretary's hand?
Yes.
That's true?
Yes, that is true. Yes. So this is back before security was quite the excitement that it is today. And Apollo 11, of course, the first mission to the moon with Neil Armstrong. And my mother used to help my father with his big live broadcasts. So my brother and I were by ourselves, and we were allowed to be 1.5 miles from the rocket taking off at what was then Cape Kennedy in Florida, which was as close as any human being was allowed to be. So we were there when it took off. And then we went to mission control in Houston. And I was just wandering around. There was nobody telling us not to. I was 11. And I was in mission control, watching it all on the big screen, and there was a woman standing next to me, and I was very friendly, and I said, "Are you all right? You look a bit nervous." And she said, "Oh, my boss is about to step out onto the moon." And I said, "Oh, don't worry, I'll hold your hand." So it was Neil Armstrong's secretary. So when Neil Armstrong stepped out onto the moon, I was holding his secretary's hand.
Because she
was nervous.
She was nervous.
And I wanted to make her feel better.
And did you succeed?
I don't know. It was kind of an exciting moment, generally.
Did you stay in touch?
No, I was 11. I don't think she wanted to be my friend.
No, not friend, but for you, it might have been interesting to know the secretary of Neil Armstrong.
I didn't know it mattered. I was 11. I was much more interested in where I was going to get my next burger.
And the mission control room, if you see pictures, video clips on television nowadays, there were all of the people were men, just men? And
no, it's not true. There were some women as well. But yeah, more and more women were in secretarial positions. But mostly if women were there, it's a bit like if you watch the movie about the development of the nuclear weapon, there's like one woman gets to say one thing, but in fact she was very important. So women being sidelined in history is not new. But it was a massive room with many, many people in it. And they just didn't have the kind of security that you would have now. It seems, when people say, well, maybe the moon thing was a conspiracy and it didn't really happen, that's a lot of people in that conspiracy. I 100% believe it happened.
There was cigarette smoke all around. That's
cigarette smoke. Wasn't uncommon for people to open a bottle of whiskey. It wasn't quite. My father smoked a pipe and used to present the news on Danish television smoking his pipe. And he had a telephone on the desk. This is black and white television. It was a red telephone. I don't know why, because there was no need. And every now and then the phone would ring and it would be the Prime Minister, and he would do an interview with the Prime Minister just on the phone while smoking his pipe. It was, I think, a more relaxed way of doing television.
Yeah, it's different times.
Yeah, I think we should bring that back, don't you? I think a bit of pipe smoke and a telephone.
I don't like smoke so much. I'm asthmatic, so...
Oh, me too. Maybe I just like pipe smoke because it was my dad.
Yeah. Still loving Denmark, Greenland is a big issue nowadays. So what are your thoughts about that? Do you think the transatlantic morons should stay away?
Well, the first thing to say is that they need to think very carefully about what map they're looking at. So the normal, what we call the Mercator projection of the world, shows Greenland to be enormous. And I think Trump thinks it's bigger than it is. It's actually about the size of Algeria in Africa. So it's not that big. That's the first thing. I think he believes it's, massive, because it does look like it on the maps, but it's just the way it's drawn. Do you know, I think that the people of Greenland are perfectly capable of sorting themselves out, and we should leave them alone. I think there's been enough colonial expansion in the world. In fact, if everybody just stayed within their agreed borders, we'd all be better off, generally.
What are the feelings from Danish people towards Greenland? It's something that belongs to us, but we never look there, or do they...
I couldn't speak for Denmark because I don't live there now, but I think the general view is that it hasn't always been good, but that is true of almost every country in the world that has colonized somewhere else. I think there's a much better attitude now to allowing self-determination of the Greenland people. And my guess is that the Danes don't see it as belonging to them, but a place for which they have responsibility, which is not the same thing.
But if Greenland people wanted to become independent, that would be all right?
For me, yes, but I'm not. Weirdly, and I don't know why this has happened, I'm not in charge. I don't know what's happened here, Martin. That's very wrong.
Would you like to be Prime Minister in Denmark?
I wouldn't say no.
Really?
Well, I think Zelensky's done a very good job in Ukraine. I think another comedian in charge might be the way forward for the planet.
But then you wouldn't have even 4 days off.
No, there is that. Yeah, I've very much enjoyed my 4 days off that I've had this year.
When you settled finally, your family started to live in England?
So my father became foreign correspondent in London, and then he became a member of the European Parliament. He was a very passionate pro-European, and very sadly passed away very early in life. He was only 59. But by then I had gone to university in Britain and fallen in love, as you do. And now I have family there. So I love Britain and I'm very settled, but I'm a European at my core and believe at some point the British people will see sense and return to the fold of Europe.
I was there in June 2016, and in London, everybody thought Brexit wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
But some people took joy in talking about how fascinating and cool the Brexit would be, because they thought it wouldn't happen, and they were very much disappointed.
The morning I woke up and it had happened, I couldn't believe it. I genuinely burst into tears because it wasn't what I was expecting. It was such a self-inflicted wound and unnecessary, and it has cost the country billions, plus the irritation for a lot of British people when they can't get through passport control. I'm fine. I also have a Danish passport, so I'm okay. But generally, yeah, it's very annoying.
You went to Girton College?
Yeah.
In Cambridge? That's part of Cambridge, or that's one of the colleges in Cambridge?
So Cambridge University is unusual. It's Oxford University and Durham are the same. They're what's called a collegiate system. So you belong to a college is a bit like belonging to a club, but you can't belong to the university without belonging to the college. So I went to Girton, which was the first all-female college in Cambridge. And in my last year, they accepted boys into the college for the very first time.
Which was interesting for you, or
well,
boring?
the only thing that really happened is that the showers and toilets became dirty. Honestly, that's what happened almost instantly.
That's what astronauts tell all the time.
Yes.
Without females, the space station is a mess.
Yes, it was disgusting. Within about 6 months.
And you were nearly thrown out, is that right?
Yeah.
Because one night, a female student, a girl, slept in your room?
So I was very ill between my second and third year and nearly died. And had an operation, and I became extremely unwell, and I was recommended by the doctors not to return for my third year. But that's not who I am. So I was very determined.
Rather die than leave college.
So I returned, and my then partner, a female partner, who had been the president of the college the previous year, so had a connection with the college, came up to stay with me to see that I was all right. And this was reported to the officials. And even though lots of girls in the college had men living full-time in their rooms, I was reported, and the college decided that they were going to throw me out. And then they spent 3 weeks trying to decide what to do. And finally, they said I could stay because of my excellent academic record. So if you're going to be gay, be clever.
And a gay woman, be even more clever.
More clever. So it was extremely upsetting. But about 5 years ago, the college held their first LGBT plus dinner and made me a fellow of the college and formally apologized. So that's okay.
It's like the Vatican too.
They did what they could to make it better. But at the time, it was terrible. It was very distressing.
So, yes. Nowadays, you're honored with degrees without count.
Yeah, without doing any work.
if you're chancellor at so many, or honorary fellowship member, whatever you call it, what does that mean?
So it's an honor is the first thing, which is very nice. And the theory is that they give you a degree or make you a fellow because of the body of your work and not for a specific piece of work. Usually what it means is I have to go and make a funny speech. That's
like in Vienna. No.
So,
but you don't get alpaca droppings there.
No. So mostly I say no now. Don't take them. But for example, I'm an honorary fellow at what's called a bi-fellow at Christ's College in Cambridge. And they very kindly, 4 years ago, I went and lived there for a year to do some studying. And I had ancient rooms that were 500 years old, right next to where Darwin lived when he was at Christ's College. So the honor and privilege of that, although it doesn't make you laugh, right? So I get this lovely old room where the floors are at an angle and the ceiling is very, not for me low, but for anybody else, the ceiling is very low. And the bedroom had a single bed in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I said to the person in charge, I would like to get a double bed so my wife can come and stay. And he said, oh, at the college, everything takes many, many years. I don't think you'll get a double bed. Anyway, I found out the name of the person who was in charge of double beds. And I went and I bought 12 donuts. And within 12 hours, I had a double bed. So I'm telling you that the answer, if you want a double bed, is donuts.
Donuts. Okay. Yeah. That's
Yes, you bought me chocolate.
I brought chocolate.
Yeah, so it's fine. Yeah.
That's the Austrian way of doing things.
No, I appreciate it.
Worldwide, it's called corruption, but...
Yeah. No, it's fine. I'm fine with it. Yeah.
If you were studying 1 year at the college, what did you study?
At Christ's, when I was the BiFellow.
Yes.
So I've been working on a project called the Mappamundi project, which I've been working on for the last 4 years, which is to see if we can't present the world in a more female-friendly way. So Wikipedia, within 20 years of it being created, has become the largest collection of knowledge in humanity's history. And that is phenomenal and should be a source of enormous excitement. But it is crowdsourced. So what that means is anybody can contribute to it. So if you think about it, who's got the time and the technology to input Wikipedia? I'm afraid it is mostly, no offense, white middle-class men. 85% of Wikipedia is by and about white middle-class men. And women have been continuously left out. So people would say, oh, well, women in history didn't do as much as men. It is so often not true that it's a bit breathtaking. So, for example, if you look at the House of Baghdad was one of the greatest libraries in the world, and it was during the Islamic Great Age. We're talking about the 8th to the 11th century. Wikipedia illustrates this by lots of pictures of men with beards looking at books, right? But I presume they're men, they're not women who've lost their tweezers. I don't know. I think it's mostly men. And they don't mention that for 300 years, this was a place where many languages were spoken, many sciences were discussed, and they were discussed by men and women. And if we look at that and we think about Afghanistan, where women are not allowed to study and are told that Islam teaches them that they mustn't study, the House of Baghdad would be a really good example of the fact that women have always been there. They've been there in business, they've been there in politics, in commerce, in science. And then if you look further at the Islamic Great Age in Wikipedia, they talk about the astrolabe as an early example of a kind of computer and how important it was in the 10th century for the development of science. What they don't talk about is Miriam Astrolabi. So her surname, Astrolabi, suggests she might have something to do with the astrolabe. She was a brilliant scientist, and much of what we know about how an astrolabe worked was her work. If you look at Wikipedia and say, what did Miriam Astrolabi do? It says she's a minor character in a Netflix series. It doesn't talk about her science. So women have been left out continuously. And we've tried to fix Wikipedia with editathons, and maybe they've had them here in Austria, what's called the Women in Red program, trying to get women put in. And it's not possible. It's broken. It's a terrible, they've made a Frankenstein. So the plan is to start again and create a new platform. What I'd really like is an interactive globe where you could click on any country in the world and see how women are doing. What is the gender pay gap? What is the contributions to science and art? What is the history of each country? And also to have a globe which spins so that it's not always the north on the top. It's not Greenland looking enormous. If you look at one of the first photographs of the Earth, the one taken by from Apollo 17, when it was first shown, it had the south on the top. And people were so upset about this, NASA published it upside down because the north had to be on the top. So a platform that shows the Earth as it actually is, a platform that enables us to look at how women are doing worldwide, a platform that could show you the globe lighting up. So if I asked this platform, where did domestic violence go up 25% during COVID? The whole world would light up. If I asked the platform, where did domestic violence stay up after COVID? The whole world would light up. And I think politicians might pay attention to that. So the whole thing is based on a map that I discovered, which was made in 1300 by nuns in Ebstorf in Germany, which was called a Mappamundi, a map of the world. So we're doing it, and we're working on it. I have wonderful support, but we need £2 million. Do you have £2 million?
Not with me.
No, but
the Minister of Finance in Austria. He has to find 3 billion nowadays, so 2 million.
That's nothing.
It's nothing.
It's like a tip.
Yes. So if you say we are working, it's a huge project. Yeah. How many people are working right now?
Well, so I'm working with a group called Women in Data, which represents women in technology, 100,000 women across the world in technology. I'm working with the University of Cambridge. But unless we get some money, we will never be able to build it. And if we continue at the rate that we are, because AI scrapes existing data and existing knowledge, if women are not in that knowledge base, then the youngsters won't know what they did or when or why. If you can't see it, you can't be it. But also, I believe it's better. I have grandsons as well as granddaughters, and my son as well as my daughters. I believe it's better for all of us. I believe that equality makes the world a better place. We certainly know that if women are at the peace table, the chances of peace surviving goes up 33%. We know that if women are on the board in businesses do better. It's better for all of us to have equality. And I do it for my sons and grandsons as much as I do it for my daughters and granddaughters.
It's better except for French slaves.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, fair enough.
But that's a very tiny group.
Yeah, tiny.
Century ago. If you say Wikipedia is broken, nowadays they don't leave out women, but AI agents as well.
Well, Wikipedia does leave out women. So women are much more likely to be subject to what's called a drive-by deletion. So a woman is suggested for Wikipedia for a biographical page. There's only 17% of all the biographies are about women. And what will happen is you put up a page about a woman and she'll be taken down as not notable enough. So I'll give you an example. Donna Strickland, amazing Canadian physicist. For years, people tried to put her page up. She does incredible work on pulsars. I don't even know what that is. Lasers. So she's the world's leading expert. Anyway, every time they put up a biography for her, she was taken down as not notable enough. She finally got her Wikipedia page on the day she won the Nobel Prize for Physics. That's what it takes for a woman to be in Wikipedia.
What a fine present.
I know. Yes, I'm still hoping to get that, but at the moment it's just alpaca poo. The Nobel Prize for Physics is next.
Are you still doing archaeological or anthropological research, or that's behind you?
No. So anthropological research is an ongoing thing. So every time I write about women and the history of women, it seems to be anthropological research. And as I say, I just did this wonderful series about archaeology. So it's finding the world is so interesting, Martin. It's finding the time to do all the things. I mean, I would like to spend a week here in the Natural History Museum in Vienna because it's so fascinating. Yes. Every room was amazing. Yeah. But
the Natural History Museum in London is fascinating as well.
Also fascinating, yes. No, all of them. I can go down, but we call it going down a rabbit hole of information very easily. And there's so many things I still want to study, but there isn't the time to do everything.
And there is another problem because I would like to travel the world as well. And everyone with enough money would like to travel the world, but flying is not a very good thing concerning the climate crisis. Yeah. You think there is any solution to that? Getting the world just to see, but not flying, or?
Well, I mean, in my dreams, the Mappa Mundi project would help you with this because what you would do is you would say, I need to know what is happening in this particular country. You would go from your desk to the country. There would be stories that are videoed by the people who are actually living there. There would be the data that you need. You know, the way the world works now with Google Earth and so on, you can walk the streets. Have you played that game where you get dropped somewhere on the earth and you have to guess where you are? Do you know that game?
No.
Oh, it's really fun. So they drop you somewhere in some streets on Google Earth and you walk around and you have to guess. And the closer you are to the actual point, I once managed to get myself within 10 yards of a shop in Brazil. I worked out exactly where I was, but it's really fun. So that's a way of traveling the world without getting.
I think Pokemon Go is the game you were talking about.
Yeah. So there's ways we can make it happen.
This documentary series, it's how many parts are there? And
for the archaeology, 4 parts. It's finished. Yeah. We're hoping to do some more now.
And you did it in Britain, or?
Yeah, it was all British archaeology. But the reverence that the archaeologists had for the past was fantastic. And there were, very sadly, quite a lot of dead babies in the cancer hospice. And once we had examined them, photographed, done all the research, we held proper funerals to place them back in the earth. And we held the funerals with as much respect for what the local feelings would have been and beliefs as we could.
So Anglican services.
Well, no, yeah, it's before Protestantism, so not quite. Yeah.
The past is the past, but there are a lot of stones and scriptures and papyruses and wooden pieces to examine. What do you think archaeology of the future will be, where everything is in data and can be destroyed, or even if it's stored, it can't be read?
I don't think that'll ever happen because human beings are sentimental and people will always keep. So I have in front of me here, which is it's my habit still, despite computers and AI, is that I have a little notebook and I write things to myself and I write it in proper ink with a fountain pen. It's so much more interesting, I think, than having it in a computer. And I have notes that my father made from the Apollo 11 mission when he was the journalist. And I like the fact that he wrote it, that it's by his hand. And I think human beings will always feel that. And the thing I felt really strongly when I saw the Venus of Willendorf is you could feel the fingers of the person who had molded it. It's really beautiful detail. The knees are so exquisite in it. So I think that the human connection will always be there. And I don't think AI will ever obliterate that. And the feeling that the connection you have 30,000 years across history with the person who made a tiny statue, AI is never going to get rid of that.
Yes, that's not what I mean, but the number of artifacts won't be the same. It's just a few. Everything which is done on the computer and stored on the computer stays on the computer.
No, but why? Where will the artifacts be?
In the 20th century, when you took photos, you had them, you developed the film and you had the photographs at home and you could take them out whenever you like. That doesn't happen nowadays. It's the pictures are on the phone, on the hard drive.
Well, I'm not sure about that. So my oldest daughter is a professional photographer. And of course,
but she's not 10 or 12 or 20.
Well, she's 38, yes. I think. But one of the things that she does now, which the whole family loves, is that when we go on holiday and she takes lots of photographs, she then makes a book of photographs for us. So it's like an old album. So I think the kids are now having simpler phones. I think they are interested in actual photographs. I think they're interested in objects. I certainly, when I go and do a signing at a bookshop, people still love to have a book. I'm less depressed than you are about the future.
It's not my opinion, because I read it some work that scientists think that our age will be like a black spot in history, because there are so few artifacts to examine, to endure.
I just don't believe that. So I think, if anything, we will value those things more.
Okay. So, having talked a lot about knowledge and gaining it, the show you're, at least at Austria, most known for would be QI.
Yeah.
It's when I first saw QI, I was fascinated because it's so different to other panel shows, especially in Austria or Germany. Because in Austria, there are few panel shows, and at one show, you ask questions and you have to be funny and hilarious and witty. But if you know something, it's bad.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
They mock you.
Oh, okay. That's sad.
Yes. In the German word is Klugscheiß, which means you shit wisdom. you know everything better.
Oh, wow.
It's not quite interesting. Oh, you know something interesting, good.
No,
but
it's a bad thing.
So they beat on you because everybody else didn't know that, so it's bad. But QI is the opposite of it.
Yeah, we value the things that nobody else thought to value. So if I ask you, for example, who do you think makes the most number of tires in the world, car tires? Who do you think makes the most?
I wouldn't answer because I fear the sirens.
Oh, okay. Yes, so a klaxon would go off. The answer is Lego. It's a Danish answer. They make 320 million car tires for their toys a year. So I love the fact that most people wouldn't have thought of it. They would come up with a big car manufacturer like Dunlop or something. It's trying continuously to look at the world in a slightly different way. I took over the show 11 years ago from another presenter, and I have done my best to make sure that the women of history are represented. It's been my biggest change.
Which you succeed, as far as I can tell.
Do you know what the chainsaw was invented for? I mention this because part of my life...
Magicians on stage?
Well, yes, that's a good answer. Part of my life is restoring a woodland in in Britain. I live in the middle of an ancient woodland,
Mm-hmm.
and I have had to learn to use a chainsaw because it's so expensive to hire people with chainsaws. And in fact, on QI, I used a chainsaw to carve a luge out of an ice block. Luge is a thing to serve alcohol in, serve vodka in, and I did it with a chainsaw. The very first chainsaw was invented to deliver babies. Can you imagine such a thing?
Not really.
No, it doesn't.
Human babies.
Yes, human babies. Yes, to cut the bone, the pubic bone for a difficult delivery was the very first invention of a chainsaw, and it had to be adapted for trees. Can you imagine being the first woman that's coming at you?
And maybe the physicians thought you should be grateful.
Yes. No, look, it's going to be so nice. We'll get the baby out.
But the Caesar's Caesar's operation,
Cesarean seemed in the end to be better.
Yes, but it has been invented a long time ago.
Well, hence its name.
Yes.
Yes, I know. So I think the chainsaw wasn't necessary, but without it, I wouldn't be able to cut down trees.
A surgeon with a special interest
Yes.
who wanted to carve into women.
Yeah.
You started as guest on the panel show because you're a comedian, writer. You very regularly on stage still.
Yeah.
Did you ever perform in Austria?
No,
No,
I don't
so-
think so.
so-
I could do.
Yes.
I mean, tomorrow night I will.
Yes, of course, but it will be a speech. That's what you do on stage, or no? I think
Yes.
you
So
perform.
I don't really do stand-up. I always have a speech that's got some purpose.
Mhm.
And hopefully you can make people have a rethink by making them laugh.
Mhm.
But I try I'm an activist, and I have fought all my life for women's rights and for gay rights, for equality. I think one of the easiest ways to help people to have a rethink is to maybe make them laugh a little bit, and then it makes them stop and think, well, what I have been thinking up until now is a bit silly.
If you've been fighting for women's and gays' rights of all your life, you think it's still getting better, or it's getting worse?
Yeah,
Yes.
I do think it's getting worse. Even in countries with fabulous records for egalitarianism, there is a backlash. Denmark, my beloved Denmark, there's a backlash against equality. We are looking at the rise of populism, right-wing politics across Europe. There is not one single country in the world where women have achieved equality. And some of the statistics are horrific. 1 in 3 women will experience sexual or physical violence in their lifetime. There are, I forget the exact figures, I think there are 18 countries where men are allowed to prohibit their wives from working. There are 17 countries that limit where women can and how they can travel. We don't have equality anywhere, and it's not getting better. People like to think of progress as having forward motion, but I'm afraid it's not the case.
I know people who sometimes work in Saudi Arabia, and they tell me it's that the progress made there is so fabulous. Of course, gay people get hanged.
Yeah,
but
that's not so good, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, the way,
But
the way
that's
you
not
check out of a
proper.
hotel in Saudi Arabia is off the roof if you're
Yes.
gay. So, no, there is no way on earth that I would go. There's a festival in Riyadh, for
Yes,
example.
it's awful.
I nothing on it. But one of the comedians who went, an American comedian, he said they paid me enough money to look the other way. And that's not okay.
Yes, and there's Jimmy Carr said it was hilarious and a good audience.
I'm afraid I
recall
won't.
it, yes.
I won't work with him.
But that's not the kind of progress you want. If it's not the worst possible, but it's a little bit less worse.
You know, there's a thing they talk about washing, feminist washing, or gay washing.
Everything is washed now.
Washing now, yeah. No, I'm afraid I'm old school, and I'll come when you make it okay for everybody, but not before.
But what do you think would have to be done to make progress again? Because the 70s, 80s, 90s, there was progress concerning equality, but it's just the money of the rich people changing the world?
Well, I mean, the first thing I would do is I wouldn't stop immigrants coming in by rubber boat. I'd stop rich men coming in on private planes. I would tax the rich. I'm a socialist. I come from Denmark. I would make sure that everybody paid their fair share, and that includes all of the big businesses. If you look at half the world's wealth, is owned by 10 white men. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah. So that's where we start.
Okay, any ideas how to deal with that? Because
we need politicians with some courage, as opposed to politicians who who say they're going to do something and then come into power and do nothing.
Where do you find them?
I don't know, because I don't know who'd want to be a politician. So
Yes, you.
I don't know. I mean, my friend Catherine Mayer, who's in the room, she and I started the Women's Equality Party, which ran for 10 years in Britain. And we did some amazing things. But part of the problem was that we just couldn't get the press to pay any attention. So the media is one good place to start. They should be telling the stories. I would recommend to everybody to look at something called Rikshana Media. So Afghanistan, where women are pretty much banned from education. Rikshana Media is run by an Afghan refugee who lives in Britain called Zara Joya, and she is continuing to get stories out by women about women in Afghanistan, and we must pay attention to what's happening.
Returning to the moon landing.
Yes.
69 was the year I was born, so I was not watching the first landing on the
moon.
What's
wrong with you?
But it could be possible if NASA doesn't fail, or at least China doesn't fail, that it would be possible to watch another moon landing in the next years.
Yeah, we're saying soon.
You find that fascinating?
I'd go myself. I would love it. I think it would be one of the most exciting adventures of all time.
But it's still very dangerous in a rocket.
Yeah, but you know what? Life's dangerous. I've had a lot of death threats, and I'm still here. If you stand up for things, then people want to kill you.
You get death? Yes, sure. For speaking out?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, mostly from people who want to kill me on behalf of God, because apparently she's really busy.
And you reply, I know how to handle a chainsaw?
I'm fine, yeah. Get out of my face. Yeah, no, I'm absolutely fine. Yeah, I think it will happen. My worry is that human beings being what they are, they will then try and own the moon or try and rape her of her minerals, which is, I think, the thing people are most interested in. So I'm worried we'll go for the wrong reasons.
You didn't stay in contact with NASA.
I know.
Obviously,
what was I thinking?
But Christina Cook has been the first astronaut. She's a little bit younger, but she's a little bit similar to you.
Do you think?
Yeah.
I take that as a compliment.
You don't know her, or you have...
No, I mean, what a privilege it would be to have anything to do with it at all.
Because in the English-spoken world, it's much easier to meet astronauts than in Austria. We have just one white man.
White man, really? A white man? It was
having been on the space station, and one young woman, at least, who might fly to the space station in the next month or years.
I would go in a heartbeat. I think it would be one of the most exciting things. One of the things I wish they would do, which they haven't done so far, is apart from just sending scientists and people who know how to fly planes, I would like them to send poets and artists and musicians, so that they can interpret what they are seeing for us in a different way. That would be wonderful.
Oh, that would be very interesting. Heinz Oberhummer, in his name, the award is given every year. He said he was betting with a colleague that man will land on Mars during his lifetime, which obviously did not happen. But he as well said he would love to end his life going to Mars, because he was over 70 and that he experienced a lot of things, and he has to die someday. So going to Mars would be spectacular.
I agree. He and I would have been of one mind in this. I think that would be fantastic. Amazing.
And the bucket droppings, we were talking about the reason why this is the trophy of the award is because he lived on a farm with his family, and there are alpacas as well, and he was fascinated for one reason, that they are so tidy and just shit on one spot, not as other animals while pacing around, but there are bacteria in the droppings of the alpacas who can endure nearly everything.
Well, it's really interesting stuff because it's pre-digested. It's sort of fully composted in the gut. So what's wonderful about it, if you're going to use it as fertilizer, is nothing can sprout from it. It doesn't burn delicate seedlings. So it's absolutely fantastic compost for peas and beans and aubergines and things. So I'm very excited about this. Maybe I need some in my forest.
The ones you will receive will be manipulated, so
I can't use it, but it'll sit on my grandsons are going to be thrilled. I feel that having poo on grandma's desk is very exciting.
James Rand, the first winner of the Heinz Oberhummer Award, had to return to the United States. He was lovely and, of course, very bright, and passing the security at the airport, he was asked what that's all about, and for sure he wouldn't have been allowed to bring some alpaca poo to the States. But he just said that's his cranberries.
Oh, perfect. Yes, it's a snack.
And offered, and the officer didn't want some, and so the alpaca entered the United States.
I'll bear that in mind. I think my weirdest time going through security, my father very sadly passed away in Britain, and we wanted to return him to Denmark. So he was cremated in Britain, and then he was put into a box, and I had to carry him as hand luggage. Apparently, you can't put your father in the hold. And as we were going through, the man said to me, "What's in the box?" I said, "Oh, it's my dad." And then I couldn't stop laughing, even though it was sad. I couldn't stop laughing. So yeah, maybe I'll just say it's cranberries.
And your father would have loved.
He would have thought it was hilarious.
Yes.
Yeah. So
thanks a lot. That's all for today.
Oh, wonderful! Thank you. It was very easy.
We'll listen a little bit to the speech.
Yes, of course.
You will have given, because we are airing midst of May.
Great, wonderful. This has been fun.
Yes, thank you. Fun for me too. Bye bye.
Så farvel og mange tak.
Thank you very much.
Und bevor wir jetzt kurz in die Preisrede von Sandi Toksvig hineinhören, noch kürzer ein paar Parteienverkehre der Science Busters und der Hinweis, die gesamte Verlautbarung doch bitte am Ende der letzten Ausgabe nachzuhören. Denn außer den Terminen Anfang Mai, etwa denen mit Kasperl und Bezi gemeinsam im Orania Puppentheater, gelten fast noch alle Termine unverändert bis Jahresende. Wer den Podcast ganz frisch zu hören bekommt, der kann heute von 13 bis 14 Uhr wieder bei Frag die Science Busters live alles rund ums Klima auf Radio FM4 dabei sein. Andreas Jäger, Meteorologe und Moderator, und Reinhard Steurer, Professor für Klimapolitik an der BOKU Wien, werden gemeinsam mit mir Fragen der Hörerschaft beantworten. Unter anderem solche wie: Leiden die Bauern und Bäuerinnen wirklich noch unter der Trockenheit, oder ist es vielleicht nicht doch schon die Klimakatastrophe? Und nachdem morgen Dienstag, den 13. Mai, der letzte Tag in dem beschämenden Prozess der Republik gegen die Klimaaktivistinnen der letzten Generation stattfindet, widmen wir uns auch der Frage: Gibt es Dienstag endlich auch bei uns Freiheitsstrafen für Klimaaktivistinnen, während die wirklich Verantwortlichen für die Klimakatastrophe weiterhin fröhlich Autobahnen bauen dürfen und in Freiheit bleiben? Live von 13 bis 14 Uhr auf Radio FM4. Die Nummer für alle, die anrufen und ihre Frage persönlich stellen wollen: 0800 226 996. Aber jetzt viel Vergnügen mit einem kurzen Ausschnitt aus der Preisrede von Sandi Toksvig anlässlich der Verleihung des Heinz Oberhummer Awards 2026, aufgezeichnet im Naturhistorischen Museum Wien am 24. April diesen Jahres.
I give a lot of speeches, and my main intent is always to see if I could trigger a new thought in somebody's head. Sometimes we do it by having a look at the funny side of things. Sometimes it's just trying to come up with a new way of looking at things. So what we're going to do, we're going to play a very quick game in the room called Good Neighbor, Bad Neighbor. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to name something, and you have to decide whether you'd like to live next door to the thing that I've named. Okay? So would they make a nice neighbor or not such a nice neighbor? If you think you would like to live next door to the thing I have named, please will you raise your hand? If you don't want to live next door to them because you think they make a very bad neighbor, please keep your hand in your lap. Okay, so let's start with galaxies. Okay? Is it a good neighbor or a bad neighbor to have a galaxy next door? Put your hand up if you think it is good, and put your hand in your lap if you think it is bad. No, terrible neighbors, terrible, absolutely dreadful neighbors. Because when they reach a certain age, galaxies stop spawning new stars. They just swallow the ones next door. So if you have a galaxy next door, it's going to get you at some point. Our own home galaxy, the Milky Way, is expected quite soon. I mean, I say that, it's in space years. It's like 4 billion years. It's not like tomorrow. To eat two of its neighbors, the large and small Magellanic Clouds. But then eventually it will be eaten itself by the Andromeda Galaxy. So it's a different way of thinking about galaxies. Speaking of eating, let's try hyenas. Good or bad neighbors? Hands up for good, hands in your lap for bad. Excellent neighbors. Excellent neighbors. Yes, because they'll eat the things you don't like. It's absolutely fantastic. They tend not to attack you because you're living right next door. So they're a marvelous thing. What about newlyweds, people who've just got married? Good neighbour, hands up. Bad neighbour, hand in your lap. What do you think? Good neighbours, bad neighbours? Oh, terrible neighbours, terrible neighbours. Yeah, they did a survey in Colorado. They found that people are much happier if they believe that they're having more sex than the neighbours. That's the... So having a honeymoon couple next door, just so depressing. I once lived in a flat. There were 2 honeymooners next door who had a water bed. It was a hideous noise. Anyway, let's try this one. Gloomy octopuses. Hands up for good neighbours. Hands in your lap for bad neighbours. No, terrible neighbours. Terrible, especially females. So they're most commonly known as the common Sydney octopus. This particular one, this lives in the Jervis Bay in Australia. And where they live is so crowded that they constantly assert their personal space. And one of the ways, particularly the females, is that they just pick up any rubbish and throw it at whoever is next door. So this is the most extraordinary thing because the use of weapons like this, throwing weapons in animals, is really rare. And it is always the females trying to say, could you please not live next door? Last one. What do we think? Burglars, good neighbours or bad neighbours? Hands up for good neighbours. Yeah, excellent neighbours. Really good. They did a survey of convicted burglars. And they found that they don't like to steal from people next door. So from your point of view, the best place for a burglar to live is right next door to you. Apparently they don't do it. So, what I'm trying to say to you, the job of a communicator is to try and reframe old thoughts, to encourage new ones, and to always say to everybody that the honest answer, I don't know, is the first step towards knowledge.
Die gesamte Rede von Sandi Toksvig kann man übrigens auf YouTube nachhören und schauen, wo der Livestream der letzten Heinz Oberhummer Award Verleihung noch online steht. Der Link dazu findet sich in den Shownotes.